Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a wonderful Friday morning and beautiful fall day. My name is Tom Colston-Friesen. I'm the chair of the CPLA, Perspectives in Liberal Arts, and also want to welcome you on behalf of the SAU Alumni Office with Steve Castle and staff there. We're co-sponsoring this event, Dollars of Donuts and a Community of Learners. So just a little bit of introduction. We have a wonderful guest speaker with us this morning, State Representative Julie Alexander. And to kind of frame a little bit here, obviously you know that there's an election coming up soon. Today we are going to have the opportunity to learn and listen and even talk about involvement in our community. So the board here at Spring Arbor University has set forth three things that we really want our SAU graduates to embody. Master learners, vibrant Christians, and global participants. And all of our aims are directed in that direction. And when it comes to the third one, global participants, we so often think of going over to Africa or whatever, but included in that is the local, even Spring Arbor community here. So I'm reminded of a passage from Jeremiah chapter 29. The people of Israel are in exile in Babylon, and the word of the Lord to them is to seek the welfare of the city in which they're living. They would have been experiencing life under oppression, certainly tough times, but God says that in their welfare, you'll find your future. And so I want to encourage us today to think about how can we learn from Representative Alexander's experience and think about how we might be leaders in our community, seek the welfare of the community, not primarily our own benefit, but the good of the community. And I'm proud of Spring Arbor University because I think we have taken up that challenge for years and years and decades, looking at the great oak tree over there. I'm told it's something like over 200 years old. And so we have a tradition of being planted here in Spring Arbor. So a few words about Representative Julie Alexander. She is from around here, went to Northwest High School, Western Michigan University, and I love the fact that you look at her background, she has been involved in the community at the ground level in all sorts of ways. As a farmer, as a small business owner, as a teacher, time out in Hannaford, Oregon, and now in the state legislature. I have gotten to know her a bit, and one of the things that I really love about her is that you're a great listener. And it doesn't matter.
Can I tell my husband that?
It doesn't matter if you are a Democrat, Republican, Independent. Julie takes her role here in leadership in the community seriously, and I'm thankful for her. Today is not so much a political rally, it's more about learning about involvement. And so I encourage you to think about your questions. We're going to have time for Q&A afterwards. But would you join with me in welcoming Representative Julie Alexander?
Friday morning, you could be doing a lot of other things. You could be studying, you could be sleeping, you could be eating. But I thank you. I thank you for the gift of time to come here and listen to me as I share with you my journey, but more importantly, what we all have in common. That is my goal today, that you walk away and say, wow, what I know and what I have is very similar to what she knows and has and does. So thank you for this opportunity. I want to acknowledge Allison in the front row. She's my staff, and she created this awesome PowerPoint, so kudos to her. And it's always about the team. It's never about the individual. It's always about the team. I'm only as good as the people that surround myself. And so I acknowledge that. In reflecting on how I wanted to go about my presentation this morning, I came up with the basic who, what, where, who, what, when, by, where, right? So those are the basis of any piece of information that wants to be shared. Let's go with the 5 W's. So on the first screen, you'll see my background. Yes, graduated local high school, college, started teaching. My second year teaching at Hannah Horton Schools, a mutual friend introduced me to a local farmer. Never been on a farm before. First day, we do dinner and movie. He goes, do you want to go back to my place? I'll show you my house. Well, that was an interesting line, but it worked. We've been married 31 years. We are blessed to be raising 4 children. 3 sons, Jared, Andrew, Adam, and our daughter in the middle, Anna, and one of our grandchildren are in that photo as well. Blessed to be raising them. Stopped teaching to raise the family. While I took 18 years off of full-time teaching so I could be a mom and a helper on the farm as well, I then decided I still needed to just be out there serving in another capacity, and I taught adult education. For 13 years I worked with adults. I tutored them in math and reading to help them prepare for their GED. And I did that through the Community Action Agency. The kids go off to Head Start, the parents come to me, we work on those skills, but it was quite often much more than the math and reading skills for those adults. So that was a perfect fit for me at that point in my life, and also for the adults I was working with. Because some of those young moms would be sleepless, and they'd say, my baby cries all the time and I can't get any sleep. And I just was able to say, I know what you mean. And those people that say count to 10 and then move on, right, to get control of the situation, I said, they don't know what they're talking about. I need to come to 100. So I could connect with those people. So that was that point in my life that really made sense. Kids were older, decided it's time to go back to teaching. We definitely needed the help with the income and the benefits. So I went back to teaching in the middle school level. Always found myself drawn to those 7th graders. That middle school age, you love them or you hate them. And I actually liked it. That's when I discovered there was something really different and unique about me. If I liked working with 7th graders, maybe I could handle Lansing, right? Because there are a lot of similarities between the people I work with in Lansing and 7th graders. Oh, there are. Went back to teaching, and one day the phone rang. And it was someone at a local level, and they said, there's an opening on the county commission seat. The current county commissioner is running for a state office. There's this opening. Would you be interested in running? And I quick go to my husband and I say, honey, I don't even know what a county commissioner does. I know what a road commissioner does, but I had no idea even what county politics was, what that looked like. But I thought, well, I can figure this out. And you figure it out. You figure out the county departments and how are we spending our dollars. So it's creating policies and it's spending dollars and it's serving your community. I'm like, I can do that. I'm already doing that, right? So I thoroughly enjoyed being a county commissioner. Chaired Human Services, that was a perfect fit for me, and just got me involved in the community. And I met so many people, and that was a good fit. And then with term limits, there was an opening in the state legislature, and I decided to put my hat in there, and am now finishing my first term. You can serve a total of 6 years, 3 terms, each obviously being 2 years, in the House of Representatives. So that's where I am right now. So that is pretty much my background. Now we've covered the who. You understand, I did not grow up in a family that was political. I don't even know how my parents voted or my grandparents voted or what party they belonged to. I just served. The gift of serving. And I believe, my personal belief is the Lord just is sending me down this path, and it's my obligation to follow that path, wherever that may go. So moving on to who, what. What is it like being a state legislator? So Allison created this awesome PowerPoint. So here's me as a state legislator, and here's you over here as a university student. When I go into 5th grade classes to give a lesson on state government, I created this analogy. It was really easy for me in the very first couple of months up in Lansing, almost 2 years ago. These new freshman legislators are just frazzled. They're just like, this is just overwhelming. I'm like, I don't think it's that bad. And I'm like, why? Why was it easier for me to make that transition? And then all of a sudden I thought about all my years as a teacher. So you are my university students, and you are my legislators. And as I go through this explanation of what a legislator does, the important piece here is the similarities of what you know and love and do every day and what I do. And when I explain it to fifth graders like this, I decided to just use the same analogy and to tweak it a little bit for you to help you understand, again, what it is I do. All right, first of all, you're my university kids, okay. You are the students. You are what's most important to this university. For me in my world, what's most important are my constituents. So we have students and we have constituents. So my constituents, I'm not going to earn my way back to Lansing or earn the title if I don't have the votes of the people. Serving my constituents are what's most important. And again, it's serving everybody. When Allison has not been instructed when she answers the phone, good morning, this is Allison, Representative Alexander's office. Did you vote for her or not? And I'll tell you where you're at the queue. That doesn't happen. We take care of everyone. And that is the most rewarding piece of my job. The next one. We have, in the university setting, you have your professors, your leaders that guide you. And in the House of Representatives, in the legislature, we have other individuals that are our leadership. We elect them amongst ourselves. There are 110 legislators. We elect who our speaker is going to be. In the Senate, they elect their speaker, president and such. We have leadership that move things forward. So if I am one of 110 people and I want my bill to move and I want this policy to be developed or I want these appropriations to be made, it's only going to happen if leadership is on board with it. Just like at the university setting, you want to change your curriculum or you want to modify your schedule or whatever it might be, it's only going to happen if your leadership is on top of it and I work with you. Next, in the university setting, you could be the one that are advocating and promoting yourself. When I talk to fifth graders, I usually say your parents. It's their job to advocate for you. What's the best school system for you to go to? Should you be homeschooled? Should you go to a parochial, a traditional public, a public school academy, a charter? That would be a parent's job to advocate as the students. Again, and or self-motivated as college students. In Lansing, I need information, and I need a lot of information because the issues and policies tossed at us are constant and they're intense and they're so important. I need resourceful people. Those resourceful people might be my leaders I just mentioned. They might be my other peers, or they could be lobbyists. Now, quite often lobbyists have a really bad negative name or tone, but understand they're just advocating for themselves and their industry, whoever's writing the check, or passion they have. As a teacher, we have a lobbyist. As a farmer, we have lobbyists. I mean, I have a corn lobbyist, a soybean lobbyist, a milk lobbyist, right? It's all broken down. If we were to look around this room, there's lobbyists out there that will lobby for the trees, the environment, the lumber, the timber, the cement. Every piece and commodity has someone out there that lobbies and represents their industry. So it's not always a bad thing. You learn to ask the right questions to lobbyists. So I met with one yesterday, and it's referred to as a small cell bill. It allows technology to be upgraded to the point we're going to need it for 5G and autonomous vehicles and all this. So the legislation's in front of us. And I was speaking with a lobbyist that really wants this bill to move forward. Well, the city of Jackson has major concerns with it. Okay, so I say to the city of Jackson, what would it take to get you to be in favor of this legislation? What do we need to do to modify it, to fix it, so that I can move forward with it? Because in theory, I support the concept. Philosophically, I'm behind this. Yes, we need to move forward. I don't want our state to be behind in technology and resources. We need to be number one back with the automobiles and whether it's autonomous or not. So I don't want to hinder our state, but I understand your concerns. So making everybody sit at the table, oh my goodness, let's go back to my years as a mom. Hello? And then my seventh graders, hello? I mean, it's the same thing, just kind of at a different level. So that's another important piece. How will your dollars be spent? As a legislator, we spend $54 billion. It's your dollars. I better be held accountable to how I'm spending your dollars. You, as a student, are either paying your tuition or you have resources that are helping you with that tuition, whatever that might look like. So those are similarities, again, the dollar piece, the appropriations. We also in Lansing have policy. So again, I consider three pieces of what I do as a legislator: serving my 90,000 people I represent, spending the dollars, and writing policy. Policy could be new laws. It could be holding the bureaucrats and departments accountable. Michigan Department of Education is known, DEQ, MDR, every one of the departments, Treasury, they're all known for implementing these little policies. Well, they didn't come from legislation, it was a department policy. So when we look at policies, when does legislation need to be modified or written? And when does it not? And similar to what you have or study, the studies that you are currently enrolled with, those kind of align the same way as to what you're learning, what you're doing. I'm very grateful that the 4 policy committees that I serve on align very closely with my background. I am honored to be serving as the Vice Chair of Agriculture. I serve on Education Reform. In Jackson County, we don't have a road commission, we have a Department of Transportation. And so as a county commissioner, I was overseeing that. So the committees of local government and transportation infrastructure also were very familiar to me. So I'm grateful for that policy piece. You have to do your homework. You have to read. You have to be prepared for class. If you're not, you know that feeling. Like, what language are they talking, right? You get in there and you're like, oh, and I thought I could just fake that I didn't read this, chapter or this book or these, whatever it was. It just doesn't work. The more you put into your assignments and what you're doing, the more you get out. Well, it's the same for me. If I go and I vote on legislation and I don't know what I'm voting for, I'm not doing the right thing by the people. I also don't know what questions to ask. You don't know what you don't know, right? How do I know what questions to ask unless I've been listening to other people that express those same concerns? So that's where I really, truly value asking myself these questions. What problem are we trying to solve? And I'm going to leap for a second to our ballot initiatives. With all 3 of them, let's just start with that simple question. What problem on the ballot initiative 2 and 3 are we trying to solve? And is changing our Constitution the right way to solve those problems? So what problem are we trying to solve? When maybe a lobbyist comes in and say, you should vote for this policy. This is good policy and why? Then I look at that individual and I say, and someone that opposes this policy, why would they oppose this policy? Help me to understand. So again, it goes back to asking questions, asking the right questions, and a lot of reading. Quite often, my father-in-law, bless his heart, he lives right next to us on the farm. He doesn't have a computer. His phone is a flip phone, so he's got a phone and he can text. Well, I'm not sure he can text, I know he can read text. But he'll see me on the farm, he'll see me at home, and he'll say, oh, you don't have to work today? I go, no, just working from home. If he only saw and knew what I have to read. If I'm not on top of the news and somebody asks me a question, that's not the kind of legislator they want. You need to be informed. It is just a lot of reading. So remember, homework guys, stay on top of it. Communicating. As a legislator, it is crucial that I communicate with my constituents. I need to tell them where I'm at, what I'm doing, what's going on in Lansing that affects our Jackson community. And just like I'm out and about and accessible, you have your fun social networking, because everyone wants to feel connected. This last week, I had the opportunity to go to a rally in Pontiac, a week event. And I went with 2 other women legislators. And we decided that it was quite a bit of a drive, let's stay. And after the rally, we had dinner, and we went back. We got a suite of a room, so we all had our own space, and we just had, girl time, right? Just to sit, because we needed to talk about the frustrations. It's not easy being away from my family all the time. It's really hard when my husband says, I go run this errand over to this other farmer, you wanna go? Because I always just feel like, yeah, I'll grab the kids, or I'll do whatever, right? And just go with them, and that's all right. Allison filled my calendar. I don't have time. I'm so sorry. And it's hard. It's hard. So you've got to make sure that when you do have your downtime, that you find time for yourself as well. And finding that balance is quite often a challenge. So students, you're assessed. You have quizzes and tests and report cards, right? Well, in Lansing, I have the same thing. Every 2 years. This year it happens to be November 6th. The voters will say, yeah, she's doing her job. I want her to be my voice. Or not. That's my program. So we've done the who, we've done the what. The what was much more extensive than any of the other sections of Lisa to get to this year. So when do you need your state legislator? We received a variety of phone calls. Some of them are mentioned up here. I'm amazed at how quickly we can resolve problems for you. Sometimes people call about veterans issues, or maybe things that are above federal level. Congressman Waller is that, right? At our stand, right on standby. We help each other. County Commission, treasurers, locals, townships, a variety of areas that we can help you with. If not, we can always tell you to call 211. Who, what, when, and where? Where else do we have elected officials? So I have to apologize. This gentleman here brought up, Allison, we need to modify our PowerPoint. We should have student councils, right? Yeah, we have school boards, but here, like at the university level, right? It starts, people are needed at every single level, and there's value to every single level. So I don't want you to sit here and think, I don't want to do what she does. But I think I understand why we need to be involved. How would I get involved? What would that look like? Well, this is how it might look like. Your local schools, your local communities. I served many years for the Hanover 4th of July celebration with this lady right here. This lady right here. Yes! This is how it probably all started. We put parades together, community events together. Some people run for school boards, and that's important. School boards are really important. We had churches, we had all those pieces, so I just strongly encourage you there. Because why? Look at the very bottom of that slide. Why? Because if it's not your voice and your philosophy and your mindset that gets involved, then who do you want to send? Who do you want out there making those decisions for you? Who's the best person? If it's not you, then who? And that's really an important piece to stop and think about. Let alone the value of our Michigan Constitution and our U.S. Constitution. There are many, many people out there that don't value these important documents to the extent I do. I take an oath to uphold these, and I take it very seriously. And I'm concerned if another person that's elected doesn't have the same value to these important documents, then the decisions being made will not be the best decisions. I'm also a Marine mom. My son Jared served 5 years in the United States Marine Corps, infantry, security forces. Ugh. That's why men and women have fought and died, given the ultimate sacrifice for us to be able to vote and be engaged. And for you not to, for any individual not to be registered to vote and express, have the opportunity to vote and express their desires at the ballot box, to me is just unacceptable. I respect that not everyone wants to, that's fine. But at least make that conscious decision. So, shared a little bit about the who, what, when, where, and why, how I got here. I think you see that I have a sense of humor. I have to. I have to. It's not always easy. There are many challenges, but the rewards are abundant. So I look forward to hearing what your questions might be. Thank you.
So I hope you've been thinking of some questions. I'll get the ball rolling and then pass the mic on. You know, there is so much negativity around politics these days, and so much that is probably unfair, some of it's true, but I wonder, when you think about your getting involved in the county commission and now in the state house, what have been some pleasant surprises? Some experiences that maybe you hadn't anticipated, or some ways that you've been enriched in the process?
I can think of 3 times. One really left an impression. It was 2 years ago. It was a door I was knocking on in Spring Arbor Township. And I walked to the door and I started my usual, this is who I am and this is why I'm here. And she knew all that. Never met this woman before. And she offered to pray for me. Yeah, I'd gladly take the prayers. Yeah, absolutely, I'll take your prayers. And it really left an impression on me. Now, my staff will tell you you have to have survival modes. Allison's not been with me long enough to know this, but, oh gosh, 2 years ago again, when it was really intense, I had a highly contested primary, and it was just not fun. Because, it's on the radio, it's in the mailbox, it's just not fun. So I said to my team, okay, team, I'm not paying attention to that stuff, because it's not getting me or taking me where I need to be. I need to be in the right frame of mind. So you guys watch the TV and Facebook and the radio and my mailbox. I'm just knocking doors. All I'm doing is knocking doors because that was my comfort piece, and that's what I knew was going to get me over the next finish line. Here's what my staff knew. When they got in my car that morning to go knock with me, the radio station probably had 1 of 3 stations going on. Country, she's having a good day. Religious music, she's a little stressed. Spa music, she's just trying to remember to breathe. it was that intense. So finding the strategies to get through it, but no, by far the people that pray, the people after the recent, you mentioned earlier, the Kavanaugh hearings, I had, that next Saturday, I was out knocking, and I had 3 people at the door say, thank you for running for office. After listening to everything we have this week, it makes me wonder why any good, decent person would ever want to put themselves out there. And it's not just me, it's my family. right? So that was those 3 comments. And again, that was 300 strangers. Never met this person, never met these people, but just their willingness to show the appreciation, that helps. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
So you stated that you're only as good as the people around you, essentially. But you don't get to choose the people around you because they're elected by other communities and things like that in the legislature. So how do you, because when we go throughout real life, we'll be placed with people who we didn't pick as our best friends to work with. So how do you work with people who you didn't always know, or you're just meeting, or just new to the legislature, or been there forever, to build something that you are trying to accomplish?
Great question, really good question. Wow. So first of all, I can surround myself with my team. I can make sure my bubble is good and safe, right? Because they have my back. When my husband and I get in an argument, they go, on a political issue or topic or a heated discussion, he'll go, I'm not the enemy, right? So make sure you're surrounded by people that will keep you going in the right direction and have your back. Same with where you live right now, right? It's the people you surround yourself. If you put yourselves in bad settings, there's a likelihood, right, that not such good things will happen. So you can protect yourself in that manner, but your question is really insightful because how do you respect those that take votes that you're like, you've got to be kidding. You voted, you have to just respect them. You have to agree to disagree, but ultimately respect every person. My mother taught me that, right? Just be polite. You still say hello to them and you smile and you nod when you walk by. I'm very conscientious. I try super, super hard not to talk about other people because, again, I taught middle school for all of those years. And it just, you know that what you said isn't really what you said, but it's escalated to something else. And what's the value in it, right? Anytime I go to say something, I think to myself, what's the value in sharing this information? Good question.
As student body president, I've faced certain situations where, you propose certain things and student body asks for certain things and certain groups are not pleased with the results of the matter. So you do something with one group and the other group doesn't like you. You do something with that group and the other group doesn't like you. So how do you, as a individual in the political realm, deal with the kind of the non-true happiness of the entire group of people by this topic? How do you deal with people not being satisfied often and kind of demonizing and attacking you for not satisfying their agendas?
Great question. When I was a county commissioner, our very first vote, that was a challenge for me. Because I could vote for yes, I could vote no. I thought, I have no idea. I could justify this vote either way. This is many, many years ago. And I went to our board chair, Steve Shotwell, and I'm like, Steve, you know what? I can argue a yes vote, I can argue a no vote. I honestly don't know how to vote on this issue. And he said, you know what? Tonight when you get in bed, climb in bed, you're going to have to lay your head on that pillow. What vote is going to allow you to sleep better tonight? Wow, that's insightful. I think also this is one area when you look at an individual's personality traits. Some individuals are more prone to want to be pleasing people. Look at birth orders. I'm the oldest in the family. I've read some books on birth orders with all of our children. Your birth order, your sex, just simple personality components of what makes you up. Some people have an easier time with that than others. And I think quite often I have, probably every day I have someone say, I would never vote for that, I would never do that. And that's a piece of it. Some people just can't get to the point of accepting that not everyone's going to be happy. So with this silly season we're in right now, of course, I have to fund this silly season, and it's public knowledge. Those who support me, it's all public, and it should be. It should be out there for everybody to see. But this group is going to complain that I accepted money from this group. I wish this group would just see I accepted money from that group too. It's not about anything. It's not necessarily a loyalty. It's just I am who I am. And when people see what traits I have to offer, you just have to hope they see through it. And you know what? Then you have to prioritize your time. And you also have to give it up. For me, specifically my first election, our Father word, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And I just stopped. That was it. I just need to get to that thy will be done. And I'm good. I win, I lose. I lay my head on my pillow and I have my family. But thank you for that question.
So your major, excuse me, coming out of university was obviously education.
Yes.
So entering a new arena to coming from education to government, what was your biggest intimidation and or hurdles?
They weren't as significant for me, and I mentioned this earlier, as others, because I've been in the classroom and I dealt with angry parents and angry and hurt children. And then as a commissioner, had to deal with making tough decisions that affected whether it's people's pensions or livelihoods. And those weren't easy calls. So I'm grateful that my pathway that's led me here has provided enough opportunities. I feel like I'm building my armor, shall we say, or the stepping stones to get to here. Biggest challenge, time constraints. At least when I worked at home, I was there with my family. The number of times that, I'm leaving them, I'm not with them. My children, they don't live at home, but I just wish, maybe I could be more active with that piece. Or I try to engage them, and if I go really fun, cool places, they want to go with me, right? But for the most part, they don't come out and knock doors with me. I even said to my son last week, he was in town with his daughter, and I said, why don't you come knock doors with me? Because I'm thinking, I don't have time to go. But that's okay. I mean, I respect their decisions as well. I think just the time constraints probably the biggest challenge. But it's a good thing I got a lot of energy.
Hey, so you're interacting with and kind of operating in like state level government and that sort of stuff, but you do have like a party that you're a part of. How much do you avoid or ignore what might be happening on the national, not like the issues, but like maybe like the crazy like party politics stuff that's going between people? How much of it do you acknowledge? How much do you like, I'm not going to like address these things that like on the national level address Republicans or
And that's a good question, because I also stopped and asked myself this question: what can I do to control it? Nothing. What am I going to gain by investing time or energy in it? Nothing. Recently, at our county level, we have an elected official who has made the news, and there have been a variety of reports on that level as well. I don't see the value of me engaging in that, right? To remove an elected county official, it takes the governor or a ballot initiative, the will of the people. I think to myself, yes, I have an opinion, and I'll share, and I have shared my opinion with that county elected official, but that's not the public piece. So I really try to just stay focused on areas I can control and try to just prioritize my time. And make sure, again, surround myself with knowledgeable people that give me the information I may need. In addition to Allison, who handles constituent issues in my calendar, my schedule, is my right-hand person. I have a legislative staffer that handles policy. So when other policies or national issues are going around that would affect Michigan, I make sure I have my team that keeps me informed.
How do you upkeep your Christian morale in a world such as politics where it's not the easiest to be who you are, especially when a lot of people don't accept the views that you have?
That is a good question, and this answer may surprise you. We start every session with a prayer. We did that as county commissioners, and although there was a lawsuit to stop us as county commissioners from doing that, we moved that forward all the way right, the step right below the U.S. Supreme Court. So we fought for that right as county commissioners. Those same prayers are offered in our state legislatures and the Capitol. In addition, when we get together as a caucus, so the Republicans get together to caucus to meet on policy issues. The Democrats do the same. I don't know if this takes place in the Democrat caucus, but I will tell you in the Republican caucus, we start every meeting out with a prayer. We lift each other up in prayer. We have some legislators who are going through some really challenging times, medical issues for themselves, their loved ones. And then on top of all of this, they've got that personal piece. So that is one. But in addition, there are Bible study groups for legislators. One morning a week at 7 a.m. It's available for us to go. If that's something you choose to do and participate in. As a caucus, we also have one individual who we refer to him as our dean. He is there to help us and lift us up if we need him.
So I think we're getting close to the end. Really, I want to just ask, what is the thing that has brought you the most joy in saying yes to being the state representative?
This last week I had the opportunity to speak at a forum, and I walked out of it like, oh, I should have answered that one question differently. So I'm going to take this opportunity, Ms. Wendy, thank you, to answer this question today, how I wish I would have last Wednesday. If someone said, what was your professional, personal accomplishment that you appreciated the most? And afterwards, I thought, oh, I should have told this story. You saw the picture on the screen, and you heard me say my husband and I are blessed to be raising 4 children. The real story is we got 5. So we had 3 sons, and then the next pregnancy, I get to the end, I get to 9 months, and deliver a baby that was born still. Our first daughter was born still on Christmas Day. After that, we went on and had one more child, a daughter. So blessed to be raising 4, we have 5. A year ago, I was sitting on the House floor, and Representative Whiteford comes up to me and she says, I have a bill I'd like you to co-sponsor. It's a pro-life bill, and it would allow a family who suffers a stillbirth to take a tax exemption that year. See, if the child would have taken a breath, then it'd be a live birth. Even if the child would have, passed shortly after that, you still get that tax exemption. It's $4,000 right now. It's about $1,200 to $4,900, right? But it's not just about the money. It's about the principle. It's about the thought. It's about acknowledging that baby. So this was her bill, and I said, yeah, I'd be happy to co-sponsor that bill to give those families that tax relief that are suffering stillbirth. And I said, do you want me to testify? And she looked at me, and I briefly told her the story, and she said, yeah, yeah, I want you to testify. So a short time later, the bill was introduced, and it goes in front of the Tax Policy Committee, and my husband sat at my side, and Representative Whiteford's husband was sitting by her side. He is a tax accountant. So the four of us are sitting there at the table, introducing this legislation, and again, it would affect the budget. So why wouldn't someone want it? Well, it'd be lost revenue for the state. Okay. But for us, it was just the right thing to do. So we put it for the tax policy committee and it passed unanimous. Every Republican and Democrat voted for it. It also has gone through the Senate committee and it passed unanimously. All representatives in the Senate, both the Republicans and Democrats voted for it. It has not yet gone through the Senate floor committee. It hasn't been signed by the governor. Those are the last two pieces. But when it went up to the House Republicans on the floor, the bill was up for a vote, and watching that board light up, because you're acknowledging then a child that was born without taking a breath was a child, and that family should earn that deduction. That does not necessarily align with others that think differently than I do. When that board lit up, it was completely green. It was unanimous in the House of Representatives. And seeing that and knowing that was definitely one of those moments. Again, it's got to get to the Senate, it's got to get the governor's signature to make it happen, but just knowing that our story, that I was able to tell our story and helping that challenge to provide that tax relief and that value and that peace for families was definitely a highlight. So, thank you again. Thank you for letting me be here. On the back table, you'll find a couple documents, of course. I brought the Constitution. I brought the U.S. Constitution and the Michigan Constitution, as well as a document for the people, by the people. It's got a lot of information in there. I would leave you with this. I would leave you with this challenge. You need to become engaged. You are the next leaders of our universities, of our communities, of our state, maybe even of our nation. So just follow that path that's laid out in front of you. Just follow it. It's there, and you don't need to know where it's going to take you. And that's hard for those of us that like to control. We just follow the path and know that you're doing the right thing, but become engaged, make sure you vote, be part of the system, be part of the solutions, be part of the process, and then I know our state and country is in good hands. So thank you. Also encourage you, anyone wanting to get involved in whatever race, whatever cause that you are called to do. Find how you can make that happen. And I wish you all well and success with your studies here at this great university. Thank you for having me.